And Mr. President, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary General, ambassadors, fellow parliamentarians, and distinguished guests, it's with great pleasure that I note that so many parliamentarians are connected today. Of course, we would have liked to return to the home of the OSCE in Vienna. And whilst we all miss being in Vienna and the warmth of Austrian welcome, we should perhaps take a moment to remember that we are in a position to carry on with our role and remember the thousands of our citizens who've died, lost loved ones, and who are without jobs as a consequence of COVID-19. We are able to continue our work, albeit in a very different way, since our regular work was upended by COVID-19. And we've got quite accustomed to the remote conferences and parliamentary deliberations. At home, I think in all our parliaments, we have had to deal with emergency legislation to agree urgent economic relief and provided much needed oversight to ensure that our government's responses don't encroach on the rule of law or our fundamental democratic principles. Over the past year, hundreds of you have joined our webinars, and you contributed to the work of the OSCE. 300 members are participating in this first ever virtual winter meeting. And all this demonstrates the resilience of our national parliaments, the assembly itself, and of parliamentary democracy. I have to tell you, members, that the resilience will be needed for longer, because it's become quite clear in the last few days that an annual session in Bucharest in the usual way is not going to be possible. And conversations are taking place with the Secretariat of the Romanian Parliament and with our own Secretariat to see precisely what form the meetings could take, whether in Bucharest or elsewhere. Of course, we would have been delighted to be in Bucharest in the ordinary way, and thank the Romanian Parliament for its invitation, and look forward to the further discussions on this issue. The pandemic has been a trying time for OSCE. We've witnessed social unrest and armed conflict in several of our participating states. Cries for racial justice have laid bare deep-rooted tensions. Independent media face growing political and financial pressure. The simmering conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh has led to outright war in the autumn. In Ukraine and Georgia, there's been no significant progress towards the implementation of existing agreements. And in Moldova, the pandemic has slowed the headway that had already been achieved in settlement of the Transnistrian problem. All this, of course, has prolonged the uncertainty and suffering of civilians trapped in conflict zones. In the midst of these strains, our organization suffered an unprecedented leadership vacuum that troubled our collective security. Nevertheless, the challenging circumstances of the past year have demonstrated that the OSCE itself is resilient, and we look forward over the next few days to hosting the OSCE's chairperson in office, Minister Lind, and the new heads of the executive structures, starting with Secretary General Schmidt. On behalf of all OSCE parliamentarians, let me wish this new team every success in this complicated mission. I'm sure that our discussions in the winter meeting will showcase our eagerness to work together to advance the goals of building comprehensive security in all our dimensions, and in the interest of delivering real results to the citizens of the participating states. It's my sincere hope that the consensus reached on the nominations at the Ministerial Council mark the start of a renewed international dialogue and cooperation. And that would fittingly mirror the 30th anniversary of the Charter of Paris, which we celebrated last autumn. I'm strongly encouraged, Madam Minister, that Sweden's chairmanship will champion these fundamental values and principles in 2021. As I said to the Permanent Council in answer to a question The Parliamentary Assembly has made it clear over the years that whilst we embrace dialogue, this does not mean shying away from debates or pretending that disagreements which exist don't exist. After all, debating opposing points of view and holding governments to account is the essence of our work as parliamentarians. I remain convinced that the principle-based dialogue can guarantee true security in the OSCE region. We will speak out when core OSCE principles are defiantly trampled. We will continue to keep every OSCE participating state accountable. We will voice our concerns when established democracies teeter on the edge of populism, and we will support democratic processes through genuine and inclusive dialogue, and we will call out the harassment and intimidation or attack on opposition figures. So we will denounce the fact that while Alexei Navalny is arbitrarily imprisoned and his supporters detained, the perpetrators of his assassination are left to run free. In Belarus, we will continue to push for meaningful dialogue between the authorities and the legitimate representatives of the political opposition and civil society. Following the welcome truce between Armenia and Azerbaijan, we remain ready to deploy our mediation capabilities to advance constructive interparliamentary dialogue between Yerevan and Baku, and to ensure that there's an advanced involvement of the OSCE in the search for a sustainable solution to the conflict. As witnesses to the growing challenge of post-election unrest throughout the region, and despite all the impediments to our work, we will continue to deploy observation missions to elections and deliver clear and impartial assessments. We will continue to help OSCE participating states strengthen their democratic institutions and live up to their commitments taken by their leaders in Helsinki and Paris those years ago. Fortunately, this assembly can rest on a strong tradition of international cooperation. Our ad hoc committees on migration and countering terrorism, which met last week, have brought a particular and distinct parliamentary contribution in trying to answer these major challenges. Our general committees today and tomorrow will tackle the impact of COVID-19 on conflicts, on economic and environmental security, and on democracy and elections. These debates are essential to inject political pluralism and diverse policy viewpoints in the work of the OSCE. But alone, they're not enough. Whilst our meetings are essential to reinforce multilateralism in these times of global crisis, genuine commitment to international dialogue and cooperation must go beyond participation. We need concrete parliamentary action. Back home in our capitals and national parliaments, must continue to generate debates on key OSCE issues. We need to carry on engaging our governments and encouraging them to bring back much needed high-level political attention to the OSCE. We must keep on calling for the timely adoption of the budget. The institution cannot be fettered by uncertainty over its resources. As the parliamentary institution of the OSCE, we've demonstrated we're ready to assist and cooperate with government structures. If all our 323 members engage directly with their governments on matters relevant to the effectiveness of the OSCE, I believe that would make a significant difference. And the success of the OSCE largely depends on our ability to fight misperceptions, build trust and bridge divides to support the work of the executive structures. So we must continue to exploit the full potential of parliamentary diplomacy to flag crucial issues and break political deadlock. Our Assembly has already had a track record in making proposals and recommending initiatives to make the OSCE more effective. And you will have all seen and read the call for action +30, which we will be taking forward with the help of Ambassador Zanier, who is working with the Parliamentary Assembly. And the leadership of the Assembly will be meeting so that we can agree the programme and how that work is going to be taken forward. Your active engagement over the past year and your vigorous participation in this meeting highlights the eagerness of parliamentarians to make the OSCE work. Today and tomorrow and in the months to come, I count on you to mobilize this energy to tackle the challenges affecting our participating states. And I should perhaps at this stage just say to you that parliamentary initiatives will be at the heart of our theme for our annual session, namely reinforcing the multilateralism, which has been referred to this morning by the President and myself, reinforcing multilateralism in times of global crisis and as a parliamentary call for future action. This seems to me to be exactly what the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly should be about. I thank you for your commitment to this organization and your attendance, and wish you a very successful and productive meeting. Thank you.